Welcome to the Contractor's Secret Weapon radio podcast, the show dedicated to helping contractors, remodelers, painters, roofers, and others in the construction industry gain an unfair advantage over their competition. Get ready for some inspiration, some encouragement, some proven business building strategies, and a couple of new ideas that can take your business to the next level and beyond. And now, broadcasting from the Contractor's Secret Weapon Studios in Southern Florida, Dave Negri.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another great episode of the Contractor's Secret Weapon Podcast. This is the show where the more you listen, the bigger the competitive advantage you will have over your competition. And hey, who doesn't want that? My name is Dave Negri, and I am the Contractor's Secret Weapon. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've created this show to share some marketing and business building strategies and some of the countless lessons that I've learned over the past 30 years creating and building multiple businesses. I have a great show to share with you today, but before we get into the conversation, I want to do a shout out to our sponsors and highlight just some of the things that they offer that can help you in your business today.
Running a small business is no easy task, and I should know because I had a service company for almost 10 years. I am the founder of a software called Radius Bomb, and it's unbelievable. And for all the listeners of Contractor's Secret Weapon, we have a special offer for you to check out. If you want to send hyper-targeted, laser-focused, super personalized postcards to your exact prospects using a map while sitting in your underwear, then go to contractorsecretweapon.com/Radius Bomb, and we'll give you your first 100 postcards for free. Just go to contractorsecretweapon.com/Radius Bomb.
Hey, is your phone ringing enough? Do you want it to ring more with highly motivated and qualified buyers that contact you, the contractor, directly? No more waiting for the phone to ring. Just answer that phone. Best Home Services leads are dedicated to making your phone ring with motivated buyers that call you directly. There's no obligation to talk with them. Just go to contractorsecretweapon.com/money. Fill out the form to secure your discount on the setup fee. Do it today. This special will not last forever. Check them out at contractorsecretweapon.com/money. Hey, this is Dave Negri with Contractor's Secret Weapon, and today I just want to welcome our guest. His name is Steve Smith. He's president of Growth Source Coaching, and he's from Orange, California. He provides performance coaching services to business owners in a variety of professional, industrial, and trade-based industries, and his focus is on helping people replace limited thinking, unproductive habits, and poor decisions, making with confidence building strategies for reaching truly extraordinary outcomes in what he is widely known for. Steve speaks to businesses, professional organizations, co-hosts a business podcast, which we've been talking about, and writes for numerous online publications. Today, we are going to talk about Steve's new book, Leadership's Axioms. So, Steve, I just want to thank you so much for being with us today and being willing to share your story and the concept of your new book.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me on. These kind of shows are really good. I really enjoy getting these conversations, and I'm looking forward to our time today.
Cool. I'm excited, too, because I know that leadership is something we all look at, and I think we all look at it differently, which is kind of funny. But I think when we were talking before, just a little bit, and probably to get this going is, and it was brought to my attention by someone not too long ago, is that, if I'm going to become the leader, I need to become the leader that I would be willing to follow. And that really set me back because I never really thought about that. We always learn about leadership and what the leadership principles might be, but that's taking it to a whole new level, don't you think?
Yes, I do. And when you think about the premise of leadership is really all about dealing with people. I mean, there's other things that are involved, management systems and how the business operates on a whole. But leadership really is directed towards how do you work with and get the most out of the people that you hire, the people that are working for you in your company. And so many times when I work with folks, their initial reaction is, okay, what do I have to do to get people to do what I want? And I listened to that and I said, okay, that's the typical approach of not really looking at who do I have to be in order for people to follow me. They're looking at what kind of techniques can I kind of throw on people to all of a sudden hypnotize them and just make them into drones. And that, that has its roots in very old traditional type of leadership where you're at the top, everybody's at the bottom, and you have all the power and they have none. And then the work environment today and the people in it have changed so radically that approach almost never works anymore.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, when I was growing up, my dad would say, do as I say, not as I do. That doesn't work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're exactly right. So today, a lot of people have either lived that, depending on how old you are, or they've grown up in a household where that was practiced, or maybe even their first job, they reported to someone who kind of thought and acted like that. And so now they might be approaching their first time of being in charge, or now they may have gone from a kind of an entry-level supervisory role to now a position that has real authority and real responsibility for getting things done. And that's where you start sitting back and saying, okay, am I ready for this? Can I really do this? Is everybody out there that reports to me looking at me and thinking, he's never going to make it in this?
Yeah, because, from the past, I know that I've been around a while, and I'm looking at the only reason they promoted that guy is because he couldn't do anything else. So, it's kind of, well, you don't want that to be you.
No, and in the industry I came up in, which was consumer products manufacturing, I worked for some unbelievably great companies. The first one out of the chute was General Mills, and one of the practices they were fond of, which now we look back on and realize wasn't the best way to go, was in the sales ranks. If you were one of the best salespeople, they would promote you to sales management,
right?
And that had a dismal rate of failure because the best people were usually so focused on what they could do and what they could accomplish and what it meant to them that there was very little room for anybody else. And so I think over time they kind of learned that the people that were going to be the best leaders of other people weren't always going to be the shining stars themselves.
Right. Yeah. No, I found that out a lot. Been in different organizations where you had a great salesperson and they made him the sales manager, and when you really looked at things, he was good because he only knew how to manage himself.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Forget about everybody else. I don't want to know anybody else, and it can be challenging, and for business owners, and I'm even going to go to husbands. You are the leader by default. What are you going to do with it?
Yes, and what's interesting about that is one of the principles in this book that I wrote. The very last one of the book speaks to that very concept, and it's not a term that I invented or came up with. You can go out on Google and search it, and you'll get all kind of resources behind it. But it's called servant leadership, and the concept behind it is that the people that you oversee, your team, your employee base, your staff, however you want to call them, that's what matters. You don't matter as an individual. What you do to support and make them good at what they do is what matters, because if they operate at a top-notch level, it reflects back on you.
Right. As it's kind of funny because I was thinking about, as you said that, the servant leadership. And it's kind of funny that, for those that, that know a little bit about the Bible and stuff, it talks about, the servant being last but becomes first in a sense.
Yes.
And
well, that's where that whole concept came from. And over time, various people in management gurus and other thought leaders have founded ways to graft those principles into a more of a non-secular, community today. So it could, you can take the principles and apply them to a regular business without people having to necessarily feel like they're having to associate with a religion to make it work.
Right. Yeah. Right. The principles are there, and it's kind of interesting as you go through a lot of the leadership principles or a lot of growth principles go back to the roots in religious teachings. However, there's no chapter and verse to it.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is kind of funny that it all works. It's amazing how well it all works. But yeah, no, the servant leadership is really interesting because I'm sure you would agree that it really helps your staff or your employees or the people that are working for you, in essence, working with you, buy in better because it's about everybody. It's not just about me as leader or me as the company. It's about what are we doing together?
Yes. Yeah. And I would even go as far as to say that people, when people trust you, when they care about you,
Mm-hmm.
when they're willing to expend great amounts of time and effort helping you achieve your goal, that's when you've really hit the mark. Because at that point, people feel like, wow, this person they care about me. They're interested in what I want and what's going to make me better and what's going to make me more successful. So there's a natural reciprocity in that.
Right.
But when you're working with someone who's all about them and all about what they want, and you're just kind of there to help them get it, and if you don't help them get it, then you're not going to be there very long. That's when you have a lot of people today, and let's face it, the younger generation has gotten really good at this. They're not buying into that. And so it's really easy for them to leave and go someplace else because they don't have that same sense that our parents grew up with, was once you get a good job, you stay there forever. It doesn't matter how bad it is. If it pays you a good wage and you get everything else and you're providing for your family, you need to think about that first and kind of abstain from any kind of personal gratification you get on the job. Today, It's completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the younger generation, they want to learn, they want to contribute, they want to be a part of, and not just be treated as employees, and that's great because I think that they've learned by watching, like you said, their parents and our parents, and it's more of, I got to ask these questions because I really got to know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they definitely they're much more curious. But this is another interesting element of that because when I work with a lot of companies who are going through transition or have gone through a lot of turnover, either through retirement or things like that, and they're now that newer brand of workforce is kind of moving into their business. Many times the people at the top who may have been at the top for a while lose the ability to connect. And that's their biggest fear is like, how do we motivate these people? How do we get them to show up on time? And what I try to tell them all is you have to recognize where they come from before you're going to be able to actually make a connection with them that's going to stick.
Right.
And most of the people today that are under 30, they're much more educated going into their first job than people of prior generations.
Right.
But they're also coming to their first official job or role in a company with probably the least amount of workplace acumen of any generation. Meaning,
Yes.
when they show up, do they really know what to do, what they're there for, what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, how to kind of present yourself and operate in a workplace environment? And a lot of them they don't have a sense for that.
No, I know it's very interesting. I was listening to somebody and they were talking about, and we'll use the word millennials, but because that's what we've got to work with. But he was saying, he worked with a lot of companies that did specifically the younger generation, and they deal with them, and they were having challenges. And he says, listen, why don't you just tell them from the very beginning, come in, tell them what's expected of them, tell them what you expect of them, and in response to that, this is what we will do for you if these criteria are met, and it's just basic stuff. We will help you, we will train you to become the best you can become, so that when you leave here, you will get the best job. Or if you leave us, but when you leave us, you will get the best job that's suited for you. And the guy says, are you crazy? He goes, why not tell him that? You're doing it anyways.
Right. No, look, for most people, and I will even go beyond the millennial generation, because so many things have changed about what people feel are important today, that, as the boss, the owner of the company, you've got to sit down with people really early in the game. One of the things I coach clients on now is when you're hiring someone, you've got about 30 days to get them really high on the company, on what they're doing, how they're doing it, how it contributes to the company within about a 30-day period. If you miss that window, they're going to decide really quickly what they signed up for, and it's very difficult to change that mindset later on.
Yes.
And one of the early conversations that has huge benefit for both parties is just to sit down with them and say, look, here, you've joined us up. This is what you're starting at. This is, why we need you here. But you tell me, what is it you want out of this job? What do you want out of working here? Because I'm interested in helping you get what you want.
Right.
And then just shut up and just listen. Let them tell you what's important to them. You'll be surprised sometimes at what they come up with that they really hold near and dear. And if it's within your purview to be able to help them get it, yeah, you help them get it.
Right. And that's kind of interesting because my wife and daughter, they have their own title company, and they do the reviews and stuff like that. And one of the girls that's been there, she's really great. She's been there 2 years. She's very young. I think she's in her mid-20s. And they said, well, where would you like to see yourself in the very near future within this company? And she goes, well, I'd like to be a closer. I'd like to do this. And they go, well, you're on the right track. You're doing, you're learning all the proper stuff. So Valerie come home and she tells me, all that. And I said, okay, here's what you should really do is I want you to go get the book, the test book on what are the things that you need to do to become a closer in the industry. What are some of the questions you need? And say, because of our conversation, I want to give you this so that you can go through to know what you're going to need to prepare yourself for the very near future.
Yes. Actually, when I was working at the Lysol chemical company, that was my second corporate job. One of the guys that was mentoring me told me something one time that has always stuck with me, and I think really helped to lay the groundwork for some of the incredible opportunities that I got into. He said, if you want to get promoted, learn what the next level requires and be able to do it at the level you're at now.
That's awesome.
He said, what happens a lot of times is people at the very top, when they're looking at their talent pool and they're trying to figure out, who's going to assume what, where in the future, their question is, well, who's ready? Well, that question never gets answered. So who has the potential and who do we think is going to survive the next spot? And he said, if you know what the next spot requires and you're already doing it, the first thing they're going to look at is, wow, Smith is already operating like that at a lower level. We're wasting time and money by leaving him there. We need to move him up.
Right. I like the word you use, survive, because now they're forcing people into a job. But if you're there, and you're learning the position that's ahead of you, then that's dynamite. That's the smartest thing. Because the way most people do is say, well, I'm not going to learn nothing until I get paid for it. Well, that's kind of dumb.
Yes. But that's a very wage hour labor mentality that a lot of folks have bought into. And I think that's one of the principal reasons why people that decide at some point in their life that they're going to go the entrepreneurial route or buy a franchise or start a business of their own making, that's one of the big reasons why they ultimately fail, because they don't understand the concept of sweat equity or personal investment in order to build something for tomorrow. They're too busy looking at, well, I'm not going to do this unless I get this.
Right. I think a lot of it I think the microwave killed a lot of opportunities. I mean, just the concept.
That's right.
The
microwave was actually the first point of instant gratification for us all.
Yeah, and it's sort of ruined a couple of generations, I think. But that's neither here nor there. It is what it is, and we just got to move forward. So let's talk a little bit more about your book. I know that you've got 14 principles that you've covered in the book, and what are some of the things that I know where you started off in your book, but and we started with the last, servant leadership, but what are some of the other things that you find that are some of the first
steps. What did of becoming that leader? There was a question I had, but I'll have to think I didn't write it down.
Okay, well, to start, the title of this book has gotten a lot of interesting comments, and I use the term axioms, and it's not a word that you hear a lot, but in my own research, what I found out was it's a term that means a proven process or a proven principle, something that everybody just knows and understands to be valid and to be right, and it requires no research or anything else. People just accept it out of hand as, yes, that's the right thing to do. And so what I really did with this book, because, I mean, this book is very short. I killed the idea of trying to write something over 200 pages because I kind of got bored with myself doing that. But I realized that today we're all living in a Facebook world with a Twitter vocabulary, and people want things short. They want to digest small pieces, get through it, figure it out, and then move on. So I put this together with these 14 principles, and it's really designed not to go into any great, deep theoretical basis for this, but really more to say, this is already a well-honed principle. Here's what it is, and here's why it benefits you, and then let the reader decide how deep they're going to go with it under their own steam.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
So some of the ones in here that I thought might be good for the show today, because we certainly don't have time to go through all 14.
Yeah.
But here's a couple that actually I run into quite frequently with business people today that are just challenges for them. And the first one, which is axiom number 2, is on accountability. And the way this goes, because once I tell you what the axiom is, then I kind of give you a little short definition so you can remember it. And for leadership axiom number 2 under accountability, it's if you expect it, be prepared to inspect it. And here's the reason I do this. So many people have trouble with holding other folks accountable, and there's a reason for that. As we grow up in life, we're not trained to hold ourselves accountable. We're trained to be accountable to other people. So when you're a little kid, you're accountable to your parents. When you go to school, you're accountable to your teachers. Mm-hmm. You get your first job, you're accountable to your boss. Nowhere along the line has anybody trained you on how to be accountable to yourself.
No, and as a matter of fact, it was kind of funny because I had a conversation with someone at breakfast this morning, and it basically revolved around this about some of the things that happen in our life, and winners are the people that blame others, and our losers are the people that blame others for the things that go wrong in their life, and responsible people are the ones that say, what could I have done better? And it all falls back on me. So it goes back to being accountable to yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you're in a workplace environment and you're responsible for a whole team or a division of people, how do you create an environment of accountability? And one of the things that people at the leadership role who many times abdicate because they kind of misinterpret holding people accountable with micromanagement. Okay. Micromanagement is just hovering and being over everybody and asking people every hour on the hour if they've gotten something done. That's micromanagement. Holding people accountable is actually a process of gaining agreement about the importance of doing something and why the person being asked to do it is the right person to do it, and then setting up an agreeable schedule for checking in to make sure they're on the right path. And if you do that enough with enough people, you breed a kind of a culture of people learning to become accountable to themselves.
Well, yeah, and it makes so much sense. I mean, if you're going to micromanage, then you're going to go nuts, first of all. But if you can get people to become accountable to themselves, then they're setting the standards for everything, whether it's be success or failure. If they fail, then and they're accountable to themselves, or then that's the only person they can look to.
Yes, and building accountability in yourself breeds better integrity in that individual, because if they're now holding themselves accountable for things that they say they're going to do, commitments they make, things like that, and they develop a reputation for being that way, their integrity goes up, which means other people around them are more interested in working with them, doing business with them, getting involved with them because you know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big one, and it's one that takes time. But if you're good at it, you can actually make other people much better for that practice. So the next one that I wanted to just kind of go over was actually it was right behind it. It's Axiom number 3. It's called building trust. There's a lot of different components involved in building a trustworthy relationship, but the one that I find in the workplace that can damage things the quickest is when you call somebody out for something, or you fail to acknowledge somebody for something good. You know, we're kind of trained early on to those people are out there, they're not working, they're doing things, you got to catch them in the act. And so I'm saying, why don't you walk around and see if you can catch somebody doing something right?
Yeah. The
reverse,
yeah.
Right. So building trust is all about acknowledging publicly, meaning when you have an opportunity to showcase somebody's good work or accomplishment, take that opportunity and do it, but also learn how to admonish privately. Don't call somebody out in the middle of the office or the middle of the job site, because even though you may be right, the situation may have called for that person being put on notice, the sting of public admonishment is something that almost never goes away. And
right.
You will forever be working uphill to try to gain that person's trust back once you've shot them in the forehead in front of all their coworkers.
Well put. Shot them in the head. Yeah, they're not going to recover from a head injury.
Okay, so number 6, this is another one that I find people struggle with, and it's under delegation. I mean, let's face it, if your company you're a solo practitioner and everything you do is of your own hands, then the only thing you have to use delegation for is other people you might work with in a collaborative state from time to time. But if you've got a group of people in a small company or even a larger one, and you know there's no way that company can operate without the work of other people that report up to you, you have to become a master of delegation. If you're not, you are going to bury yourself in your own stuff, and you have nobody to blame for it but yourself. So the thing I find most times that people screw up on delegation, which causes them to pull back and say, I tried that, didn't work, I'm not doing that again, is because they delegate responsibility to the wrong people. Okay?
Makes sense.
The delegation that works is when you assign responsibility to people who want to grow, not people with space on their plates. Okay.
And again, that thought comes back to me is, that I learned years ago, if you want something to happen, you got to find a busy person, not someone who's hanging around doing nothing.
Yeah, find a person who's best suited to take on that responsibility because they've got the natural ability, they've got the knowledge, the experience, the intelligence, or maybe just the grit. Maybe they're the kind of person, if you show them and you kind of give them some guidance, they'll figure it out and they'll end up winning. But what I find too many times is people look around and say, okay, I've got this low-level, unimportant job, and I need to give it to somebody, so I'm going to find somebody who's a little light in their duties.
Yeah.
And what I tell them is, no, give the real important stuff to your best workers. And if your best workers are overloaded, meaning their plates are already overrunning, take the unattractive stuff off their plates and give it to the people with space.
Right.
Because then what that kind of sets up is if you're willing to step up and take more responsibility and be held accountable for producing at a higher level, you'll get the good stuff. For those of you that just want to show up and clock in your 8 hours, you're going to get everything else.
Right, and it gives the person who's busy or doing stuff the opportunity to grow, just to see what they can do from management or the business owner side of things.
Yes,
makes so much sense. So
now here's the last one.
Okay.
And this one's important because I see a lot of people running afoul of this one too, and it comes under the heading of feedback. And I see this a lot, not only in workplace environments, but in other collaborative, more networking type environments where you're running around, you see people that you're always talking about business conditions, maybe, things that you're struggling with. And many times what I find is people are very, very quick to give advice to other people when the other person hasn't really asked for it. So my leadership axiom number 8 is ask permission first, or it's going to be viewed as unnecessary, unwanted, or unappreciated.
Right. Yeah, no, I know, because I know there's a lot of times where we all get into, well, they need to know this, and I'm going, you haven't been given permission. If I haven't given permission, then they're not going to hear a word that I said. When they ask the question, when they ask for something, that's when they've given me permission to address whatever they've asked. And so that's probably, that's key when we try to help people that don't want to be helped. That's kind of crazy.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, a lot of times people say, well, then how do I get that permission? And I'll say, well, it's really easy. You can just start off by saying, okay, based on what you've just shared with me, I have an observation that I would like to give you. Are you willing to hear it?
Right. Yeah.
You're
asking
if you do that,
permission.
you're asking permission, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good way to do it. But this whole book has little things like that in it. And awesome. I've actually had some people that I've given it to locally have come back and told me that they've used the book to train their whole management team on kind of human interaction best practices, which is what it was designed for.
Yeah,
yes.
That's awesome. So one last question. I know we're getting close to the end, and I found the question I want to ask you, and I think it'd be perfect for closing out this segment. And in the beginning, when we talked about the leadership principles and stuff, one of the things you said was that we need to be in touch with our own values.
Yes.
So can you explain that a little bit more? Because I know that we look at leadership books and we say, well, I need to do this, I need to do this. But if it's not part of who we are, then we probably need to change a little, don't we?
Yeah, one of the things that I look for in clients and even people that I decide to do business with is are they congruent? Meaning, are the things that they're displaying and telling me matching up with what's actually going on the inside? And as we grow up and we're around certain people, certainly our families, we get into certain experiences, we kind of learn and grow along the way. We all develop our own set of innate values, things that we hold near and dear as truths for us. And the worst situation you can get into is when you're in a leadership role and you're practicing a style of leadership that doesn't connect with your own values, because everybody around you is they're going to figure that out fairly quick. Mm-hmm. So value-driven leadership is very important, but it really means you have to be in touch with what your beliefs are to start with. So here's an example. If you're running an organization and it's very multiculturally based because you're in an area of the country where you can just draw from a lot of people who have come from other places, and you don't respect other cultures or how people bring their talents to the workplace based on those other cultures,
right.
People are going to figure that out really quick, and that's going to create its own brand of problems that you're going to struggle to get out from under.
Wow. That's really so cool. So we're coming up to the close of our session today, and how can this has really been really great, and I've been taking notes as we've been going. How can our listening audience connect with you to learn more about your book and to learn more about what you do?
The best thing to do is go to my website, and it's growth, GROWTH, growthsourcecoaching.com. If you want a copy of my book, there's a link right on the front page, cool. And you just order one, and I ship it to you directly. If you want to have a conversation with me about things in your business that you'd like to overcome, I offer free consultations, and there's a link there that you can sign up for that. Awesome. I try to make the website an all-in-one kind of stop and shop kind of business development resource. So there's lots of videos, there's articles, there's things you can learn from, and that's really what I want people to do. Whether they choose to have me help them or not, I want them to come to the site and actually get some learning that they can go off and apply in their daily circumstances.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure that we put all the links in the show notes to your site as when the podcast goes up. So this will be awesome.
Great.
Thanks so much for being with us today.
Dave, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Hey everyone. Thank you so much for listening to today's show and investing your time with us today. Being a contractor myself, I know all too well how precious time is when you're running a contracting business. And I want you to know that I take your commitment to grow your business very seriously. And as I said, it is the reason I created the Contractor's Secret Weapon Show. My goal is to share daily not only what works, but also share what didn't, so you can avoid some of the painful and costly mistakes that I've made. In addition to this show, my team and I offer various training and coaching programs, including a limited number of private coaching opportunities where you can work with me personally to help you grow your business. I encourage you to visit our website at contractorsecretweapon.com, where you'll find hundreds of additional shows, some free information on you can build your business, and you'll find my contact information if you want to explore working with me privately. So that's a wrap for this edition of the Contractor's Secret Weapon Podcast. Be sure to stop back at this time tomorrow for another great episode, or you can go to iTunes or Stitcher and sign up and have it downloaded and delivered to your phone each time it becomes available.
Now it's time to implement what you've learned and grow your contracting business. Great ideas are nice, but results only happen through action and implementation. So learn more about Dave Negri and how he can help you take your business to the next level, get some additional free business building information, and listen to additional shows. Visit contractorssecretweapon.com. That's contractorssecretweapon.com. And remember, the more you listen, the more you'll have an unfair advantage over your competition. And who doesn't want that? See you next time.